Welcome back, everybody. We are back, Goose the Grey and the Sigless. We are here with Game 2 of Mouse against Hard Random. And if the last game was any indication, this one's still going to be a super crazy, explosive match that's going to be pretty crazy.
The fact that there was more than a kill a minute for over 42 minutes last game is like almost unheard of. That is obscene. So these teams both very aggressive, I think. We could easily say that after watching the last game. Maybe over-aggressive at times, though. They need to be careful to pick the right sorts of fights. Now, instantly, we're going to see Rise being locked in for Hard Random. This was banned out last game by them.
I'm actually surprised that Hard Random banned away Evelyn. They must still be afraid of that, despite it having no impact whatsoever in the last game when played by Mouse. So, they're not going to pick that one up. On the other hand, Mouse very quickly choosing to go for Maokai and Sejuani. So already very heavy on that crowd control, and that's really going to help them get the fights they want and play the fights the way they want them to go.
And that's a far cry, I think, from last game, too. Last game, Mouse's composition was very much, we're going to disengage, we're going to poke you, and then we're going to re-engage. This game, it's like, all right, we're going to step on the acceleration and just drive straight into your team. Also, the fact that picking up Maokai makes a lot of sense against a Rise. You get a lot of your passives off in that top lane. You can heal up a decent amount. They have left Alistair open, though, which I think is dangerous because that was very, very powerful for Hard Random last game. And I think, Jarvan as well, like, Hard Random are getting a lot of the ingredients for the delicious recipe they made last game of big team fights. So I'm a little bit worried for Mouse. I mean, I think what they've shown so far does do better against the sort of comp that Hard Random has been running, but Hard Random, they still got 2 picks. Maybe they can try and find that little special ingredient that they need to really take Mouse down here.
Well, I mean, they did once already, and if they do it again, they're going to be 2-0 up, basically, in best-of-3 series in this tournament. Of course, we're currently in the group stage where each one of these 8 teams plays every other team once. It's a round robin, and then the top 4 teams go on to a I do believe, actually, it's a double elimination. No, it's a single elimination qualifier with best of 3s and then best of 5s later on, starting August 31st. So the top 4 teams from this round-robin group stage will move on to that. So every win you get, especially when it's against one of these top teams, one of these dangerous teams like Mouse, like Hard Random, so it counts for both sides, is really, really crucial. Both teams are really going to want this. And as you said, the ingredients for another juicy teamfight composition are there on the side of Hard Random. This time, they add in a Corki and a Varus for the mid lane. So Varus going to poke a lot more, especially towards the mid and late game. He's just constantly going to be spamming out those arrows. On the other side, though, Mouse, they're now in a teamfight composition as well. They've got that Sejuani, they've got that Maokai, then they've got a Tristana and a Morgana in there. So a very different composition, in my opinion, than what we saw last time. Still got that Tristana, still wants to get those towers fairly quickly, but it's a lot more defensive and a lot more fight-oriented on their side as well.
I'm actually a little bit surprised by Kira's Varus pickup here. Against a comp that wants to just run at your face and engage, he does have Chains of Corruption, which is a good disengage ultimate, but at the same time, he has less time before the fight to poke, most likely, because Mouse is just going to want to press go. So that's a little bit of an odd pickup here, and actually, it's going to be a war of the poking AD carries who have made the transition to mid lane. It's a very specific war. There's only 2 participants. It's going to be Varus versus Ezreal in that mid lane. Zio, obviously, did perform very strongly on Ezreal last game.
Yeah,
so moments of weakness where he kind of bit off more than he could chew, but generally speaking, a strong performance. We are going to have a quick remake due to a runes bug, but it shouldn't take too long to get back into Champ Select and get the game underway.
Yeah, sadly, that seems to be one of the more common bugs on the tournament client. Either way, we're already back into Champion Select, and since everybody knows what they want to pick, it should go fairly quickly. Now, as you said, Ezreal was already very strong last time, and of course, we're on 5.13, so the Runeglaive changes haven't quite come through. It still turns attack damage into magic damage, and even though it doesn't proc on the Q anymore, the Luden's Echo is still very powerful. on the W, on the E, and on the ultimate, of course. So still a lot of power there for Zio with that smite. That's actually going to be one of the things I'm looking forward to once 5.14 runs around to competitive play. Are people still going to pick up that Ezreal with the smite, or is it then finally going to be relegated to only people like Nidalee? Because it does double damage to monsters then, so it's really good to help Nidalee's clear even more.
I think the thing is, Ezreal, if we do see him continue to play that mid lane role, that AP role, I think he's still going to be good, but it's going to be a different kind of a build. You know, you're not going to be going for the smite because Runeglaive isn't as broken on him. But given the AP itemization changes that came through, the fact that you can get a needlessly large rod for very little money compared to what it used to be can only benefit someone like Ezreal, who needs to race to high AP values quickly in order to have decent clear. And, you know, certainly Runeglaive is a big part of why he's so strong, because he can wave clear, which is a pain point for Ezreal. But I think just being able to get to high damage amounts early is going to allow him to team fight better, and not, you know, AP Ezreal before Runeglaive, if people remember that, used to basically just be all about the late game burst damage. So he might hit that a little bit sooner after the changes.
Yeah, but imagine something like a Rylaze as well. That thing is like a frozen gauntlet for AP carries now. On an Ezreal, not only will it proc on everyone he hits with his ultimate, but those Qs he constantly spams out will slow people for 40%. That is massive. Like, you can engage a fight simply with an Ezreal Q once he has that. So I'll really be looking forward to those itemization changes, to what it can do to the Ezreal builds that we do see, and, you know, to whatever happens in the competitive scene. For now, though, we're not quite there yet, although you might build something like that just to make me happy. I doubt it. We'll have Mousesports trying to equal out the score against Hard Random in order to stay in this best of 3 and go to a third game.
All right, well, we are onto the Rift now, and I don't think we're going to see any lane swaps necessarily. I mean, Tristana, if there was going to be one, I would assume that Mousesports would be the one to initiate it, just because Tristana wants to take those early towers. But Corki Alistar is manageable for the Tristana Morgana lane. They've got the spell shield to deal with some things like the Phosphorus Bomb, which can be very difficult. And similarly, if Alistar goes in, he can find himself eating a binding and not actually landing his CC due to that black shield. So I think Mouse has the option here, but they don't have to go for it if they don't want to.
Yeah, it might also be interesting for them just to try and keep Smurf down a little bit longer in this game. And the first piercing arrow hits basically GG. Hard Random wins. They landed the first little bit of poke in that mid lane. It just shows us how that lane is going to go. The interesting thing, though, is Varus picking up here not only the Crystalline Flask, but another 3 cookies as well. And the fact that they're cookies rather than health potions just means that he's gone fairly deep into that utility tree, and he lands another arrow. Ezreal here, gonna go into lane with a little bit of hurt.
I might have been not paying attention enough, but I believe Kira actually just got some gold when he hit Ezreal. So I think he has gone very deep into that utility tree, which is interesting. But something that's worth talking about with regards to this middle lane is that Ezreal, even with Runeglaive, is not going to be shoving out nearly as fast as Kira with those piercing arrows. So this does mean that it kind of mitigates one of the strengths of Ezreal, which is that it's hard to gank him, because he's just going to be pushed to his tower constantly and struggling to CS anyway. So you can focus other places with Symphony. And I think top lane, for example, early on, is a good example of one place he could focus. But similarly in the bot lane, they do have a lot of setup with that Alistar. Even against the Black Shield, once it's burned, one of those CCs is going to make it through. So I'm excited to see how Symphony can play this early game. Last game, he wasn't that influential in comparison with Dan, who got that early kill on the top lane. But Dan, this time around, on a slightly less gank-heavy champion. So similarly, interested to see how he does here.
Of course, both teams having their bot lane start with a camp. So here, the early level 2 already coming through for Mouse. We're looking for Dark Binding to land somewhere. Morgana still trying to put that pressure on right from the get-go, trying to get the first little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, Damanko got bound up right there, right before he pulverized too, so he just completely wasted the spell. You can see Mountain already starting to put some pressure down. That was a lot of damage coming out of Lex there with the Gatling gun, though. Interesting that he's decided to go for that instead of the Valkyrie second, maybe just hoping that Demonko is going to be able to protect him from any aggression coming out of Mousesports via just their bot laners or the junglers. Looking at the junglers, it does look like we're going to be seeing Dan pick up his blue buff quite slowly in comparison with Symphony, who is heading basically for a confrontation with him immediately. They're just going to back off. I think it's a good plan. They don't want to be fighting too early.
I mean, they find one another at the Scuttle Crab. Sejuani with more HP than Jarvan. Since Varus can move over fairly quickly. That's another thing about what you mentioned earlier. When Ezreal is constantly pushed underneath the turret, it gives more freedom over to Symphony and Kira to invade the enemy jungle, to put pressure points, to roam, get Varus down to that bottom lane. You know, there are all these options that they can make happen here, and the Flag and Drag is actually going to land. Varus comes around. The slow not quite going to connect, though, and that should be enough for Dan to just waltz on out of there. No, the flash comes through from Symphony, and they're still trying to go for this. Sejuani over the wall. It's going to be first blood after the piercing arrow. Jarvan picks it up. Nice early start here.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we thought might happen due to Zio just being constantly pushed in. In the top lane, whilst that was all going down, Smurf did manage to burn the flash of Beansu, which is obviously great for him, but Beansu, in response, just did a lot of damage and pushed the wave up, so he's actually, I don't think, too unhappy with that, so long as he can get some wards down to spot Symphony out, which he does try and do now. In the bot lane, though, I think this is worth talking about, because Mouse are doing a really good job of putting pressure onto Demonko and Lex, who aren't actually succeeding at locking anyone up or really landing much of their bursts. So Mousesports setting off to a good start. The problem for them is that Tristana isn't able to leverage some of her strengths here. You know, she can't push out as quickly as Lex can, and as a result of that, there's just no way for her to go for early tower pressure. Meanwhile, Demonko is just eating bindings whilst Lex tries to harass, which is a nice way of playing the lane given how tanky Demonko is. Zio needs to be a little bit careful in the mid lane. That piercing arrow, not quite going to take him down. He gets on out of there with a flash, actually.
And the pink ward that was bought right away being killed here by Symphony, who hasn't recalled yet. Dan losing that double buff early on really hurt him as well. He's still level 3, whereas Symphony is 4. Of course, he's now going to recall, get that jungle item in there as well. So, an early misplay by Dan. I don't know why he stuck around for so long. Obviously, he wanted to thwart Symphony and get him off the Scuttle Crab, but it cost him his life. That's a first blood over to Jarvan, and not only that, they also got the assist onto Varus, and now Cedrian going quite low. This is dangerous. Lex could have tried to decide to go forward, but he doesn't have any mana, doesn't want to go too risky. But the early game here looking very good for Hard Venom. They're a bit behind in the bot lane. That's definitely evened out by that advantage that they have in mid and jungle.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, this is one of those things where I'm surprised better vision control didn't immediately come down for Mousesports, because Dan should have known that that was a likely outcome of the early game when Ezreal is getting pushed in so much. You know, it's not even as if Ezreal could roam down and help. He does nothing early on, especially his AP. So, you know, a little bit of a misplay there, I think, by Mousesports. Maybe slightly on tilt after the last game, given how close that was to them winning and then it turning out for the worse for them. So Smurf and Beansu in the top lane have both hit level 6 now. They both got teleport if they want to go for some kind of fight. Actually, Smurf has used it. Look at the damage on Beansu.
Yeah, once you get those rise rotations down, it's really threatening, and we can see what he does to Beansu, and Beansu doesn't even have a whole bunch of gold, only about 430, so he doesn't want to recall and teleport up to that top lane, but if he sticks around, he's actually going to be within kill range. Doesn't have mana for that ultimate either, so he's going to have to get out of here before Symphony now gets in. However, he's already around and he's going to move.
Oh,
spot down, and he goes pretty far. This could be dangerous. The snare comes in. Symphony now has to run. There's a twisted advance. They do a lot of damage onto Symphony. And where is Rice? He's now coming around the side as well. They're going to pull out, but that's a big amount of damage onto the top tower. Of course, return bottom side. But again, I like this play here in the early stages for Hard Random.
You know something that I think is interesting? Akin to how I was under the assumption that Maokai would do a decent job against Ryze, I think Beansu thought the same thing, but maybe, like me, he hasn't played the matchup since the changes, because with Ryze now having a spike where he just goes off on a chain reaction, basically, you actually don't get many opportunities to use your passive, and if you don't use it, it doesn't refresh and allow you to use it again. So the fact that mostly Smurf is just saving up, and then suddenly just going balls to the wall with all of his abilities is meaning that Beansu isn't able to use the strength of Maokai's passive in the same way that you used to be able to. So he's actually struggling a little bit in the top lane. He's doing good in CS, but being forced out from that wave earlier is indicative of what might happen if he's not careful, especially with some more pressure coming out of Symphony.
And speaking of that vision controller earlier, Jarvan there, after that recall with a very early sightstone. Ooh, they're going into bot lane. Alistair trying to go forward. The knockback on the mountain. He does have that ultimate down though. Dimanka gonna get stunned up and a beautiful buster shot out of Tristana. Disengages everything. So just staying safe. They're still putting a lot of pressure onto this lane.
Excuse me, the damage actually working out better there for Mousesports as well. Even though that was engaged by hard random. So I think Lex really needs to go back and buy maybe one more item before they can properly pressure onto Settery and the mountain.
Yeah, once they do have that, it's going to get easier. Of course, Jarvan there, we see a lot of deep wards in the top half of the jungle, and that's not going to do too much for trying to get to focus around the dragon. It's not going to help when Jarvan tries to go for the bot lane ganks, but at least it's one sort of an advantage that they have, and it's going to keep Ryze pretty safe up there in the top lane. He's just going to want to scale up. I mean, we have two tiers on the side of hard random, both in that mid and that top lane. They just want time. They want that Seraph's Embrace to be done on Ryze after it was buffed again, and they want Varus to get his own Muramana as fast as possible. He's already got that tier plus the 2 long swords. It's already been stacking up for a while. He's already got about 125 stacks on that. So gonna be pretty happy with himself. Now all they need to do is stay even in the spot lane, not fall any farther behind, not give up any kills, and then when Jarvan comes around, when Kira is able to roam once or twice, they should even be able to go for that dragon.
Every time you
don't
pass
die
me,
on
I cough.
me.
I don't know what's happening. Anyway, hard random, as they showed last game, are certainly no slouches when it comes to the late game fights, and I think going for a comp that scales so well is a really good decision, especially to compensate for the fact that Lex on that Corki is going to be a little bit weaker later on. I mean, I don't think it's going to matter when you've got someone like Varus, who is going to be another 80 carry, kind of, in that mid lane. So I like the comp that Hard Random have gone for this game. I think it's going to work out nicely for them, so long as they don't give up too much ground in mid-game dragon fights, because that's where people like Dan and Beansu are going to be really impactful, so long as Beansu is able to teleport down to them. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. We are seeing the CS lead in the bot lane, though, extend more and more in favor of Mousesports. If they can keep this up, it's going to delay Lex's power spike on that Trinity Force, and again, make those mid-game dragon fights even more difficult.
And a very good job here by Mouse so far, getting the wards where they need to be. They spotted out the Jarvan and Varus gank that was coming through the tri-bush just in time. Now they had another ward right where Jarvan was coming in. So they're avoiding these ganks. Jarvan and Varus were trying to make something happen. And Varus, 20 CS up, despite going down to the bot lane, despite Ezreal trying everything, including using that ultimate to push in the wave and deny a little bit. Now Varus has gone back and already picked up the Manamune, and that's going to stack up even faster now. So he's going to be quite confident with how his lane is going. He's almost gotten through the weak early phase and going to start to hit the first couple of spikes once he picks up that brutalizer as well.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I mean, look at the itemization path coming out of Zeo. At the moment, he's just picked up his Rune Glaive, but is that really a comparable item? You know, if you compare it to a Manamune, obviously it's going to help him out when it comes to shoving the wave and stuff, but until he gets a little bit more AP, he's not going to be doing that much damage with the item, and I think Kira should still be able to win out in this mid lane. And that is going to give Symphony more opportunities to roam around and make things happen. Although I think if Mousesports can fight on Dragon, they will win in the early and mid game. We might see a situation occur where they can't actually fight on the Dragon because they're just not able to do so. That said, at the moment, Hard Random focusing their attention top lane instead.
Yeah, they went up top, they got that Cataclysm down, they're trying to take Beansu. Alistair comfortably tanking up the tower.
Heals!
Oh, they wanted to donate the kill and they almost miss it. Now Symphony is tanking, he's gonna go down. Beansu, you monster! Turning that into a 1-for-1, what a misplay from Hard Random.
I think what happened there is Beansu actually attacked a minion to get his passive heal off. So apparently it's still pretty good against Rise.
That was, yeah, you're still never allowed to do that. Don't ever try to give over kills in a situation like that, especially when tower diving. It is never worth the risk. As we saw there, it turns into 1-for-1, and they committed so many resources. Now Varus lands his ultimate, doesn't manage to get a follow-up arrow though. I think he was actually out of mana and couldn't get one out. So no kill there, the ultimate burned, but Mouse got that dragon earlier on the bottom half of the map.
And they've taken down this bottom lane tower, so really, Cedrian and Mountain are doing a great job against Lex and Demonco. Varus in that mid lane, getting me all excited and letting me down. Unfortunately, not able to go hard onto Zio. Chains of Corruption isn't exactly a short cooldown either. It's about 96 seconds at rank 1 with the amount of cooldown reduction that he has. So that gives a little bit of leeway maybe for Zio to make some plays in the mid lane. Kira trying to bait him into a piercing arrow there, not able to find it. Zio, he needs to pick up another item ASAP. Like, as soon as he picks up another item, he's gonna be able to fight, I think, against Kira, so long as he just goes in and doesn't let himself get poked down first. But at the moment, Kira is just completely wrecking him in this mid lane. Now,
Symphony trying to go forward. Gets hit by the Soul
ultimate.
Shackles, but doesn't get stunned up. Manages to get out of range. Of course, another person, Demonco, coming around was another threat for Mouse to deal with. They disengage. Sejuani once again on the Rift Scuttler. They've got great vision in this enemy jungle, and Symphony's trying to go for this. It could be very dangerous. Maokai and Rise are coming around. They engage on the Symphony. The Flag and Drag gets him right behind him in enemy lines. That's totally not where he wants to be. Great Sejuani ultimate. Makes sure that Smurf can't get in there. True Shot Barrage doesn't even matter because Jarvan just goes down.
If Kira had mana there, I actually think hard random would have been fine. I mean, Symphony probably would have died still because he has a habit of, you know, just going for it when maybe he shouldn't. But Kira without mana wasn't able to be impactful in that fight, and it would have been easy due to the Cataclysm for him to group up on a few people and land a great piercing arrow. So unfortunate for hard random. But this does mean that at this point, Mouse are quite solidly in the lead in terms of gold. They've also got a tower up and a dragon on top of hard random. And several of their lanes are doing a really solid job. So, well played by them so far. I think it's going to come down to the late game, though. Mouse need to make a few more impactful plays soon in order to make sure that hard random don't get to the point where they have all of their tier items and really just start going off.
Alright, now Cedrian needs to be very careful. The Flash Headbutt Pulverize stuns him up. Demonco is quite happily taking out that tower for a while. Meanwhile, Mountain gets found by Symphony in the river. Dark Binding comes out. That's going to keep him safe, and everyone manages to get out alive.
Yeah, a lot of action, but no real result from any of it. That said, this bot lane tower could be pushed down here, I think, by hard random. I'm kind of surprised that Demonco's going back with full health and about half mana. Look at how oh, okay, they do get it well timed to make sure that the minions can just about finish it off. Good job there by hard random. That is evening up the towers now, but the gold is still about 1,000 in favor of Mousesports, just due to a few CS leads and things like that, specifically the bot lane. But top lane, Binsu has nearly picked up Banshees early, which I think is a great item for him to get. I mean, piercing arrows are an issue for him. You've got a lot of spells coming out of Rise. But once he gets that, I'd like to see them try and teamfight around this next dragon, because I think if they wait too long, Mousesports are going to be outpaced.
So they really need to try and make that happen. The question is, can they make it happen? It's not going to be easy. The Chains of Corruption, he still gets that Arcane Shift out. That's going to keep him alive. Nice job by Zio.
Yeah, Kira didn't really have the damage to make that one happen. I think he was just trying to poke down Zio so that maybe they could make space to take a tower. But then he saw Mountain and he was like, oh, I kind of just wasted this ultimate because I can't actually push right now. Top lane, I like this from Mouse. Going for that early is going to give Binsu the room to move around the map, which I think is super important, like I was saying earlier. But Smurf, he's actually going to try and go for a kill. The rest of HR is coming up.
Yeah, Smurf wants this. There are Alistar, Jarvan, and Corki all on their way. The Sejuani ultimate has already been burned, and that Bean's ultimate is just about to time out. Doesn't manage to dodge anything with a twist of defense, gets knocked back. Easy kill here. And now the tower pressure is on. Still an entire minute for the dragon to come up. So they're not going to give anything up if they keep pushing this a little bit.
And mid lane, Cedrian's trying to make a play on the Kira here.
True Shot Barrage misses. Good flash from Varus, keeping himself safe. Very close there, but they do pick up the top, outer turret as well, so that's going to be 2-2. However, Mouse instantly respond with mid lane, and now it's just 35 seconds until Dragon. Who's going to be able to get this one? Mouse want to fight this. Come on. Binsu did go for the Spirit Visage rather than the Banshee's Veil. Gets that extra heal on the passive. So that's going to be quite nice for him. But I think really the two big things that need to be completed very, very soon are the Righteous Glory and the Talisman of Ascension on Morgana. Once you've got those two items, you're able to get into the fights when you want them. You're going to have a much easier time keeping Mountain in range of a Soul Shackled's target. You're going to have an easier time of getting Dan to where he wants to be in order to put down a great Glacial prison. And once they are able to do that, they're able to choose their fights. Now, vision control around Dragon entirely in favor of hard random. Symphony's also going to be able to stop this recall, but Dan actually goes in on it. This is bold. Gets a smite down. Dan just going to go over the wall just as the Cataclysm comes out. And now the Dark Binding onto Demonko is going to force that ultimate away. I think the advantage is still in favor of Mouse. It's still in favor of hard random, of course.
It's just a bit weird that they decided to use two ultimates just to sort of harass Dan off blue buff. Or not even off blue buff, out of the blue buff pin. They do pick up the Dragon, but this is a nice response by Mouse. They're just going directly for this tower, utilizing, of course, the strengths of someone like a Tristana. I'm not sure they can get it in time, though. Kira is doing a lot of damage.
Good amount of damage onto Tristana. Now can Binsu get out of this? The Dark Binding lands on the legs. Binsu has given up his life, gives that over. Meanwhile, though, Jarvan right to the backside. They get not only Tristana, Maokai, but also Morgana. And now, hard random, they're still teleporting onto Ezreal. He flashes away. The cage still comes out, though. Zio with one more auto attack onto Golem still stays alive. Now, Symphony is trying to take down Dan, and Ryze has given up on chasing Ezreal. Meanwhile, Symphony can't get Dan either, but he still wants that red buff.
And I think he should be able to take it. I mean, if you look at the position of the rest of Hard Random, they are very easily able to reinforce Symphony right now if they want to. And what looked initially like a quite nice play just to trade away that tower for Dragon by Mouse turned around rapidly. I don't think they should have committed so much for it. You know, just getting some damage down, weakening it for later would have been viable. But they... Oh, the ultimate decision they could have made is to not get caught out near Dragon, so they just fought on it.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to do that, right? But I think given the sticky situation they kind of put themselves in, they made the right call. They just committed to it too hard.
Yeah, and then they got picked off one by one. Great chase, too, by Hard Random, getting the skills down that they needed when they needed them, despite the Chains of Corruption being down very, very early on. And of course, forcing that flash away from Ezreal is great for the next team fight as well. So whatever Hard Random try to do next, you're going to have that advantage too. Ezreal's going to be very easy to get caught out. Now, Hard Random have got about 1,000 gold lead. Towers are even, Dragons are even, but they're up 7-2 in kills. It's kind of a similar situation to last time, where this time, though, they have a huge advantage in top lane. They've got a pretty good advantage in mid lane as well, and the only place they're kind of behind is that bot lane and the jungle CS. But even despite that jungle CS difference, the gold is only 800 in favor of Sejuani. So Jarvan, because of the 2 kills, because of the 2 assists, still staying in here, and once he has that Aegis stun as well, that's further going to mitigate whatever Mouse can really do. Their team fights are just going to get better. So Hard Random here are actually in a very comfortable position, I think. They're ramping up. They're getting the tier items completed. Archangel Staff has been built by Ryze. He's very close to completing it as well. The
Whoa,
he needs about 200 stacks. Ooh, Mountain with that flash. Whoa, oh, the Sejuani ult is huge, but Dan takes massive damage. Now Mountain all by himself. Binsu took too long to get in there with the teleport, and now it is kind of just sitting back trying to see what more you can pick up. It's a 1-for-1 trade at the end of the day. Support for Varus for that mid laner, but still very, very dangerous.
I actually feel like that fight was great by Mousesports. Binsu, he did come in a bit later than I would have liked, but the important thing is that he got the kill on Kira after he had just about made it out of the fight. You know, Kira initially cleansed that Glacial Prison coming out of Dan, and following up from that, he just backed away from the Soul Shackles. Now, if Binsu had not come in then, or slightly earlier than then, Kira would have gotten out of there and just started hailing them with arrows. It would have been disgusting how much damage he was able to put out. So, you know, better late than never, right? I mean, that's the motto of Binsu. I think after that one. He was able to get an important kill and stop that tower from getting pushed onto. I do think that Hard Random could have positioned a little bit safer when they were engaging on that. I mean, they have a huge range of poke coming out of Kira. Utilizing that a little bit better might have made sense, but you know, it didn't end up that badly for them. Hard Random are still in the driving seat, I would say, at least for now. Just because Mouse, they missed an opportunity to fight before Corki became strong, and now Hard Random are just riding the Corki wave until they get late enough that Kira and Rise are really disgusting. I mean, they're already getting there, but they're not as strong as they will be.
Yeah, I want to see that next team fight when Binsu has actually finished the Righteous Glory and gets there in time, because other than that, the fight was about as good as it can get. They had an okay Soul Shackles, Mountain taking a lot of focus onto himself, still surviving for a very long time, and a huge Glacial Prison out of Dan. It doesn't get much better than that. So if they can replicate an opening like that, with Maokai being there very early on, they can take out Kira even faster, and then still refocus onto Lex, onto Smurf, get the important other kills.
Oh, here we go!
Fight the great Glacial Prison, and Symphony losing so much HP, he's already out of the fight. Now Demonko, all alone in the front line. The Soul Shackles are still gonna not quite land, and Mountain losing a lot of HP. He needs to get out of there real fast. Symphony going forward, gets knocked back by the Buster Shot, the reset for Tristana. She's still trying to get away, but the flash from Lex might just be enough. The red buff takes that kill, and after everything's said and done so far, it's a 2-for-1 exchange, with Hard Random still coming out ahead.
They gotta be careful right now, though. I mean, Dan and Binsu are gonna be able to maybe go back. Smurf, look at him! He's on a Rambo mission!
Wow, that was close. Had that piercing arrow hit, that would have been the kill right there. Doesn't matter, Smurf still got a flash. They're gonna pick that up, and now they're on that inhibitor tower. What a play here by Hard Random.
That was really good by Smurf and Kira, actually. Had they not picked up Zio, I think Dan and Binsu healing up would have been enough to just completely force them away here. As it stands, I think they could re-engage and try and go for the inhibitor.
They're trying. The inhibitor goes down. Demonko taking a huge amount of damage, though. Kira standing right on the front line. He can't go anywhere. And after Demonko goes down, Smurf still fighting in the back line. He's going to take Cedrion down. Gonna pay for it with his own life, though. That is a 2-for-3 exchange. I don't even think they mind too much, because they got the important thing. They got the inhibitor. The second dragon there, they can give that up. And the Baron threat without Tristana, without Morgana, isn't very real. So I think Hard Random, quite confident with how this game has played out in the last couple of minutes. And considering that Mouse engaged that last team fight, Hard Random came out ahead. They're peachy with their situation right now. And the more this happens, the scarier it has to be for Mouse. Are they still going to have the confidence to engage another team fight like that?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think Mouse, they needed to make something happen earlier. I just don't know how else to phrase it. Lex trying to go for a steal. Dan actually is very low. Wow, he goes down.
Yeah, Jarvan followed him through everything, so a little bit of a consolation prize. Didn't quite get the dragon, but Dan standing way too close to the wall there, taking all the damage out of Corki, paying for that with his life. So, again, like, whenever Mouse try to do something, try to pick up an advantage of any sort for themselves, Hard Random have an answer. They've got a game plan for all of this, and now they're getting onto this Baron. They were spotted out by the Farsight Orb. They don't even care. They're right onto it. Mountain right now, they only want a round. Symphony jumps right over onto him. The Dark Binding keeps him around. Oh, the piercing arrow snipes him down. Right now, though, no jungler in the Baron pit. Tristana is around the corner. Sapling comes out. Hard Random could still finish off this Baron. Sejuani is super far away. They take Ezreal down, who tries to go for the steal. They get that Baron, and Lex, super offensive, just goes right for the fight. Doesn't even care. Another piercing arrow picks up Tristana. There is nothing Mouse can do at this point. They're just fleeing and losing things left and right.
I think Kira really wanted to make up for what was arguably a somewhat weak performance last game. I mean, the piercing arrows in that fight were just beautiful things to watch. He hits Zio as he's arcane shifting into the pit, so he doesn't have enough health to actually contest. And then he hits Cedrion mid-leap when he was trying to get away. I mean, he completely solo set up those two kills. Beautiful Varus play coming out of Kira. They get the Baron. They get a top lane tower as well. Hard Random. They looked like they were struggling a little bit at points last game. This game, not at all. I don't think there's been a single moment this game where I thought, you know what, Mousesports are really making Hard Random's life tough. You know, this game, Hard Random have been in the driving seat from minute one, and they are just pushing it and pushing it. And the thing is, I would argue they have a better late game anyway. Like, it doesn't even matter if they were to fall behind necessarily, because they've got Ryze, they've got Varus. You know, those two champions alone put out ridiculous damage in the late game. The crowd control, the lockup from Hard Random is also very strong. I mean, obviously Mouse has good crowd control, but Hard Random, you can't sniff at theirs either. You know, the Chains of Corruption, the chain stuns coming out of Ryze, not the actual ability name, just what he does. And of course, Cataclysm Mouse, they're going in.
Yeah, that was a beautiful engage right onto Kira. He's still trying to kite backwards, somehow still alive. Demonka, though, is about to fall. They're trying to get onto Beamsu Mountain. This first one to fall on the side of Mouse. Now there's a second one and a third right to follow. And all of a sudden, 4 people are dead. Yes, they managed to get onto Kira, but what about Smurf? He just annihilated them. He's teleporting into the base. He wants Ezreal as well. Can he get him? The Arcane Shift away. Smurf still chasing. The cage comes in, and that's going to be the ace.
Oh, man. I mean, this is what happens when you've got 2 hyper carries on the other team. You got to kill both of them. How do you do that when you're Mousesports? It's just too difficult. I think this is going to be a quick game, actually, going over to Hard Random. Yeah. They really pulled it together after the first one, and they're going to pick up the best of 3, 2-0.
What an impressive performance here in Game 2. Completely different than the last one, really, where it was misstep after misstep on both sides and a super scrappy teamfight game. This time around, 22-8. Yes, they gave up a couple kills, but the question was always, what do they get in return? And they got more. They were, what, almost 10,000, 9,000 gold ahead, pretty much dead on now at the end of the game. They had 2 people with a tier finished. Ryze was about to complete a death cap as well. Like, their entire team was just so powerful. And Hard Random played this one beautifully. They got all the things they wanted, and you can just see how they play these games when they have 22 kills, and Alistar has 18 kill participations. There's 15 on Jarvan, there's 12 on Smurf. They just play this teamfight game, and they're really, really, really good at it.
I think going forward in LBA, we're going to see teams banning out Alistar or picking it against Hard Random, because 2 games in a row, that was one of the most influencing champions on the side of Hard Random. Now, Smurf as well played like a god. I think he's my MVP of the series. I don't know about you, but game 1, the Gnar ultimates were just unreal. And this game, he was making crazy plays on Ryze, teleporting deep into the enemy base to pick off straggling people. He was just on fire in both of these.
Yeah, and absolutely decimating everyone in the team fights. Of course, Kira on his Varus here in this game, really making a great showing for himself as well. Mouse put up a great fight. I mean, who could forget the Ezreal pentakill in game 1? It still wasn't enough. They lose the series 0-2, and with that, Hard Random is actually the first team to go up 2-0 in best of 3. So they've won 4 out of 4 played games so far. That puts them quite well ahead in this group stage. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, it's all going to come down to who makes it out of this round robin group stage to the finals, because there's actually quite a good chunk of money on the line. It's a $20,000 prize pool, and the 10,000 of those go straight to the winner. And then the second place gets 6, and the third place gets 4,000. So for Hard Random to already have 2 big wins here is really, really nice.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see how they do moving forward. You know, there's still a decent amount of LBA action left for you guys. Make sure you keep tuning in. I think we got some games tomorrow night, actually, at around the same time, so those are going to be great. I'm looking forward to casting those.
Yeah, two best of 3s actually tomorrow. Mousesports have a chance to redeem themselves, and then Gamers 2 playing tomorrow as well.
Oh, that's going to be a great game. Gamers 2 always put on a good show.
Exactly. So, yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it. Any feedback is quite welcome. Just write us. You can follow the stream to see whenever it goes live. Follow us on our Twitters to see whatever we're up to. And of course, return tomorrow for more LBA action, because it's great. I mean, you just saw how fun it can be.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the tagline. Watch LBA because it's great, guys.
So yeah, I think that does it for us for today. And yeah, it's been great fun. Thank you for casting with me. Thank everyone for putting on the show, and thank you for watching. Hope you had a great time, and we'll see you next time.